Hey, Edmund. A lot of faces and people I recognize in the crowd. That's great. Let's do the next part and let me know if you can see the slide. Raise your hands. Great. Thank you. Really appreciate it. And let's see. 1 second. Also, we have Jonathan joining us as well. I really appreciate everybody who's here who made it on time. Let's 1 second. Let me add Jonathan as a panelist. No, not this Jonathan. All right, so what we'll be doing today very shortly is we're going to be discussing the AFworks strategic and tactical financing program. And a lot of people asked us, why are we doing this before the solicitation has been released? We're going to be talking about this. We have Jonathan coming in from Eagle Point Funding talking about the solicitation of this program. We're going to go in depth exactly what it means, but there's a very good reason to start preparing for it in advance, meaning before it's released, before they set out templates, start preparing for everything that is needed. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to join. But yeah, what we brought here is we brought one of the senior grant consultants from Eagle Point Funding, and we're going to be talking about the efforts that we're going to be doing with companies. Okay. Let's see, do we have, I don't see Jonathan in the crowd, but Leora more. Great, join here. All right. I don't see Jonathan. Francis, no, you can't. I'm the organizer, so I can see other people. 1 second. Okay. Great. So we're going to be starting in just a second. Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go. And I see Jonathan here. Fantastic. All right. So let's get this started. What we're doing here today is very straightforward. We're going to be talking about the AFworks strategic and tactical financing program, Stratfi and Tacfi. I am Yoav, Joe from Eagle Point Funding. I'm the director of business development. And with me here, I have Jonathan, who's also a senior consultant here at Eagle Point. We're going to be talking about all your questions, reviewing, and making sure that you have enough tools and data to know more about the program if you should do it. We're going to be talking about best practices. We're going to be taking AFworks key points, and let's just start from there. What is the Air Force TACFI Stratfi program and Eagle Point Funding Stratfi TACFI Assistant Program? Just a quick note, Eagle Point Funding, we're not associated with the federal government. We're a private consultancy company, and we help companies get amazing and great funding from federal agencies such as National Science Foundation, NASA, and more. Jonathan, just if you can give a word out and say hi to the crowd and the mic, so just so we know that you have great audio, and we'll start.
Sure. Yeah. Hey guys, my name is Jonathan. I'm excited to be here today. Excited to talk to you about Tacfi Stratfi funding.
Fantastic. So let's just start the opportunity and what is that? AFworks, they are basically the innovation procurement arm of the U.S. Air Force, and they fund small businesses through open topic SBIRs, and the purpose is to get really great innovative companies to join the Department of Defense and within the Air Force capabilities specifically, where the reason the program started is because they saw that the amount of tech developments is happening at a higher rate compared to the DoD's ability to absorb the best tech that could have the best impact. Now, what they do is they invest from smaller bets to ever increasing sizes. So you start small, then over time you grow from proof of concept to prototype, etc. And strategic and tactical financing are the final steps to move there. They fund in stages. Here we have these nice steps here. Great. What goes here? What happens is very straightforward. You have application, then you get a phase one of 50,000, then you get a phase two of $750,000, and then the strategic and tactical financing program takes you anywhere from 375 to 15 million. What I wanted to show you is a coins going up and down in the slide, but also the way the program works by stages. Now, what they do is they are a funding enhancement program. They offer up to $30 million in government funds, up to $60 million in total. And the cool thing that we saw from the data is we took a look at companies that in 2020 got funded from Stratfi Tacfi and what was their valuation afterwards. This is data that came from the Air Force itself. We looked at the valuations, and it seems that the Stratfi program increases company valuation anywhere but by 3.5 times to 100x. So 3.5 times was a company that was worth $1 billion and now is worth 4.9 billion. In other situations, we saw a company worth $4 million and then worth $40 million. So this really has a strong effect. What I want to do is I want to give Jonathan the stage in a little bit to talk about how does Eagle Point do best practices, things like that. But essentially what the strategic and tactical financing program does is they're trying to connect between the investors, the industry, the inventors, and the actual tech companies to the Air Force need. And what they're doing is, what they saw is that companies that were able to finish a phase two usually have a need for about an order of magnitude higher funding, because if you're able to get $750,000, $1.5 million in a prototype stage, you need to get about 10 times as much funds to finish development of a product that then could be sold. So they have created this program. Jonathan is going to be talking about a little bit more on the non-dilutive side, but where it has significantly enhanced funding for mature companies to take the prototype to a finalized solution. Now, how do you qualify? Jonathan, do you want to take this one? Or you want me to step in to continue this?
You can continue this one.
Sure. How do you actually qualify? And this is something that's critical. Now, you need to be either in active phase two, or you've finished a phase two in the last 3 years. So if you won a phase two in the last 3 years, or you started a phase two in the last 90 days, you qualify for the strategic and tactical financing program. 2, you haven't been awarded an extended phase two, or you don't continue right now have an open Stratfi program. So these are critical things that would automatically get disqualified. After that, you need to be able to reach the minimum investment requirements, meaning if you can't find, let's say, matching funds of at least $375,000, you won't be able to make the minimum requirements. And then finally, and this is critical, you need to be able to acquire an end user and customer memorandum. These are not the same thing, but you need to have different people within the Air Force and 2 different signatures that are vouching for the use and what are going to be the deliverables and the use case of your technology. Then what do you need? You need a capability package and documents. Jonathan, we're going to be going over that later. End user memorandum, a customer memorandum, private funding letter, meaning you need to have either an investor or a different type of funding that shows that there's an interest from the private sector on what you're going to do. Meaning, I am investor X. I'm going to invest this amount of money, making them at least the minimum requirements in this company if they get through this process. And here's the outcome that we're trying to get. Matching funds forms is everything in the capability package afterwards, meaning the budget, the use cases. We're going to go over exactly what's available there. Before we move, this is also something that's really critical to talk about when we talk about funding amounts, is these are numbers and this is data that we've had from the last year's solicitation. What this means is we are now preparing for the next cycle to be announced. And what this also means is you have to take this with a grain of salt, because things with AFworks always change slightly before they start or during they start, when the process already starts. The reason we're bringing this up now based on last year's data is because we want to be able to get our customers prepared. Johnny's going to talk about exactly how we're preparing them. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to have somebody from the Air Force willing to invest and sign the documents. Constantine, no, it hasn't been released yet. That's why we're bringing this up, and this is where we're preparing. And the same thing has to be with an investor. The same thing has to be with an end user and the capability deck. So let's talk about a little bit about funding amounts. Minimum requirements is $375,000 for tactical financing, up to 1.7 million. For strategic financing is $3 million up to $50 million. When there are matching funds, you see that if you only have a defense only, is dollar for dollar, dual use is the same. However, in strategic financing, if you're able to do defense only, it's going to be a 2-to-1 match, and then it's going to be 1-to-1 to 2. And Jonathan, I think, even has a case study. So this is, again, these are the things that you need. And this is where Eagle Point funding comes to kind of the rescue. So Jonathan, how about we talk a little bit about what does Eagle Point do? Talk a little bit about the non-dilutive side, preparing for getting everything ready for the solicitation.
Sure, thanks so much. So first off, we at Eagle Point Funding, we provide a suite of services. Eagle Point Funding focuses on the grant side of the services that we provide. So that means that we work with our clients to take care of the full process between application open and preparing to put together an application deck to all the way to submission and all the different items that are associated with that. So as we see here, and basically what we're doing for Eagle Point Funding, it shows us that we are a little bit later in the process, but as we acquire clients sooner rather than later, we can actually help you in the entirety of the process. And I'll tell you exactly what we do using this flow chart on how we help our clients. So first off, the matching funds form. So like Joe said, the matching funds form gives you eligibility in order to apply. And that means actually submit the application. So that means securing an investor and getting their acknowledgement and written consent that should you be selected for a project, that they already pre-commit to matching funds, okay? Now, at Eagle Point Funding, while we don't actually help you pursue the investors necessarily, we help you prepare all of the materials so that when you go into an investor meeting, you are prepared with everything that they would ask. Also, which Joe will talk about later, we have a sister company that provides the business development angle of this process, and that means introductions to potential investors. It's one of the most important things that we provide, and the reason why we provide it is because as we've been working with our clients from the full process point of view, we noticed that a lot of our clients, since they're small businesses, they need a little bit more help with the business development component. Beyond that, we have a capability deck. It's building an investment deck. We at Eagle Point Funding, we help you build that capability deck. We also have strategists and deep tech showcase, which can also help build a capability deck. The customer memorandum, I want to answer this because somebody asked a question in the Q&A. As you know, MOUs is a memorandum. It's a legal document from the Air Force that states, if you are chosen to do a research effort, the Department of the Air Force, the one that writes your customer MOU or any MOU, they are pre-committing that if you were selected for a project, they will help you fulfill your research proposal. So that's the MOU. Drafting the MOU and finding the relevant Air Force customer. So for Tacfi, Stratfi, there are going to be two types of MOUs that we need. One is from the customer, the Air Force customer, and one is from the end user. The Air Force customer, we can think of it like the Department of the Air Force. This is the department that has funds built into them, okay? Which means that they can actually financially support your research. The end user memorandum is the person who's actually going to be using the technology. So this MOU is the end user who says, yes, when this research effort is going on or when it's complete, I will be the one who's using this technology. So that's the difference between the customer and the end user. Usually at Eagle Point, we help you identify both, okay? Other services do not help you identify both, if they help you identify at all. So we have a process. We also work on this aspect in partnership with our MOU Club, which is a service run through DTS, Deep Tech Showcase. And so we work in partnership with them to be able to find MOUs. The one thing that I want to leave you with when it comes to MOUs is that many times our clients will enter an MOU conversation with an Air Force stakeholder, okay? So that includes both customers and end users. And because they don't have a draft ready in that meeting, the MOU stakeholder that they identified goes away. They're no longer interested. So what does that mean? That's what we mean by preparing the materials before the meetings. We, as your ultimate project managers at Eagle Point Funding, make sure that you don't go into any meeting blind, okay? So that means that the MOUs, you will have a draft with you. So if they're interested, you show them what their commitments would be, you show them what you're proposing and where they sign, okay? So that's how we work here at Eagle Point. Matching funds, again, we shortly discussed how we help get matching funds, and the end user memorandum we just explained robustly. And as you see on this flow chart, Eagle Point Funding has a certain role in these services, and the Deep Tech Showcase has another role in these services. And we work together in order to get you the Tacfi Stratfi funding. And just to give you an example of a company that was very successful, Hermeus is a company that makes hypersonic air travel, okay? So they're talking about getting from New York to Paris in, I think, 30 minutes. And that project was funded between their direct to phase 2 proposal and their Tacfi Stratfi proposals was under 6 months. And they were able to get $60 million in total funding, $30 million in non-dilutive funds. So when we talk about the significance of Tacfi Stratfi funding, we're not talking about small limits here. And once again, if anybody has any questions during this, feel free to throw them in the chat. We can move on to the next slide, Joe.
Sure. So what our program includes, just as Jonathan is saying, is we need to get everybody, in order for this submission to be successful, you need to get both the non-dilutive side. That means Johnny's team needs to prepare the capability deck. They need to make sure that you get an end user and a customer memorandum, but also you need to get the private sector in line as well. You need to do the outreach to the relevant stakeholders in the Air Force, but also find the investors who understand what is the Air Force program, what is the strategic financing program, and get them prepared to be willing to sign those documents and commit those funds. Obviously, this is a great opportunity for the investors, make no mistakes there, because they get to put, for every dollar they put in, they pretty much get $1 back, but in non-dilutive funds. So in strategic financing and dual use products, for every dollar an investor from the private sector puts in, they have a match fund that's going to happen from the federal government that is non-dilutive. So they don't lose shares, they don't lose control, but it does increase the valuation of the company. Now, you need to contact these people, explain what needs to be done, you need to be able to pitch. So you're having the same fundraising and pre-sales process that you would have just as any other tech company, but for a very specific purpose. And this needs explanation, and it needs more than anything, it needs time. Let's move Next, you organize that with the Tech Showcase, but you need to get, again, like I said, get the investors to understand that they're going to be working with a tier one client, and the financial and business development future of your company is actually at a significant advantage compared to similar tech companies in the industry who aren't building the investment channel and the business development channel and the R&D process happening at the same time. Jonathan, would you mind talking a little bit about the outreach that you do to help prepare the memorandum, but also
Sure.
reaching out to a little bit of the stakeholders?
Sure. So first off, I'll answer this in tandem with a question that was just asked. The question was, what's the most difficult process to position a client for an SBIR or STTR? So frankly, the most difficult process is going to come down to specific SBIRs, and those are the SBIRs that require MOUs or legal letters of support. Okay. So, and the reason why this is the most important part is because most companies fall into what we call at Eagle Point, the MOU graveyard, without professional help, which means that they have a great proposal. They know for a fact the Air Force is interested. Maybe they submitted a phase 1 SBIR proposal. It was approved by AFworks program managers, which means AFworks has an idea that this is needed, but they're not able to get in touch with the right stakeholder, and therefore they aren't qualified to submit a phase 2, and in this case, Tacfi Stratfi. So those are going to be the most difficult portions of positioning to become eligible for this SBIR. So what we do at Eagle Point is we work in partnership with our Deep Tech Showcase partners in order to make sure that our clients can secure that MOU and become eligible for application. And that means that we build out an entire prospect list for our clients to reach out to. Now, the prospect list is, this is going to be your basic sales outreach process. Ours is a little more in depth because it's pretty focused. And our prospect list, we're talking, 250 plus people on a prospect list to put you in the best position to start reaching out to different members of the Air Force to get, or stakeholders, I should say, to get those MOUs. So in addition to building out the prospect list, we also help you strategize on how to get the names on the prospect list. We do a significant portion of populating that prospect list, but also we work with our clients on reaching out to their local representatives. That includes governors, that includes state legislators who have relationships with your in-state Air Force bases. We also work, on different company strategy. Who are the veterans that we know? Different strategies that we can basically ingest and assess all the different leverageable relationships that your company has by virtue of where you are physically in the States, and also by the relationships that you may possess. Now, should those things be weak or not exist, we also work with our Deep Tech Showcase, where we have a former Air Force Chief Technology Officer who helps our clients get connected. So what does that mean? That means that he gives them advice on what air bases would have the most relevance for their technology, and he helps them strategize and clean up their pitch decks so that when we do pitch days through Deep Tech Showcase, they have the best pitch ready to go. The one thing I want to explain is the pitch days. Pitch days through the Deep Tech Showcase is basically where we have companies, 10 companies within a 2-hour period. They give a pitch to a panel of potential Air Force stakeholders. And the Air Force stakeholders want to be there. The reason that the Air Force stakeholders that we generate in our community want to be there is because without our help, they have to do it themselves. And they also have an issue getting in touch with small businesses. So the service that we provide, it's, pun intended, a dual use service, both for our clients and also for the Air Force. So I hope that gives some color into how we go about seeking out those MOUs. And then once again, and I can't stress it enough, before you actually sit in the meeting with any potential Air Force stakeholder, we have an MOU draft for you ready to go. And that's done through an ingestion of templates. It's done through over 25 grant consultants working in our office, helping each other, making sure that all of our work is high quality and that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, so that our clients don't go blindly into an MOU meeting. And the reason why I stress that point is because maybe you've done it yourselves, but we know for a fact that it happens to people who are unfamiliar with the process. And the last thing that we allow to happen at Eagle Point is for any of our customers to be unprepared going into this very complicated process.
Thank you, Johnny. And one extra thing on the preparation, there's we sometimes, as the client needs help, we're more than happy to join the call with them. Sometimes questions might arise that the client, not because of lack of merit, but just unfamiliarity with the process, then they might not have the answers right away. But it takes so long to get a meeting with the potential stakeholders that you want to be able to have those answers. So yes, it's also the preparation. If a client needs, we're more than happy to join the call as well. Again, we talk about the complex submission, just to show you just what Jonathan means when it comes to a complicated capability package. It is showing who are the phase 2 stakeholders, who are the people you work with, overview of how's it going so far with your phase 2, summary of your technology solution, summary of pending contract awards, supply chain integrity. This is every person sitting here in this webinar has heard in one way or another about supply chain constraints that are causing major price increases, but more importantly, they're creating delays within deliverables of potential goods and services and products. So you need to be able to prove that your supply chain is solid. Now, this seems something that might be very complicated, but if you think about it in simple terms, there's a person on the other side that needs to make the decision whether you are a company that is a significant net benefit to the Air Force and the Department of Defense. B, are you a trustworthy company that is worth the investment amounts? So sure, it feels like you're doing a lot of complicated bureaucracy, but this as a document that from every single process at every single step has to be persuadable to a person reading this on the other side. Oftentimes, and Jonathan can maybe elaborate later, we see amazing and phenomenal tech companies only focusing on how great their development and technology is. But here, you need to show supply chain integrity, strategic analysis, interested parties, interested clients, and these are things that go beyond just technical merit. Jonathan,
can I just jump? Oh, sorry. Can you go back to the previous slide? I just wanted to jump in on one point.
Yes.
So this type of format is what's directly from AFworks. This is what they demand. So it's not like these things are negotiable. And just like Yoav said, if these things are not written in the way, number one, that they expect, and number two, what their needs are, it's as if it doesn't really matter, right? So when we work with our clients, we make sure that all of our clients are writing in a way, and we help in the process. We're also a team of technical writers. And we help in a way to make sure that there's a narrative being told that answers the needs of the Air Force. If that component's not there, we see applications fail, and we don't want that to happen.
No, we do not.
Right.
Let's take a look at Jonathan, talk about some common mistakes, and these are things that were also brought up from the actual AFworks community on solicitations that were disqualified by them.
Right. So when they say avoiding common mistakes, the other way that you can read this is technical rejection. Okay. Technical rejection means that they didn't actually read your application because it wasn't in compliance with what the requirements are. So they just throw it out, which is not what we want. So this includes not following submission guidance. What's submission guidance? Submission guidance is all in the solicitation that you receive for the Tacfi and Stratfi solicitation. And these solicitations, they can be upwards of 100 pages. And if there's information in there that you missed that will change the compliance regulatory requirements of your application, it's going to be technically rejected. So because we work in a team, we kind of work as a hive mind in our office at Eagle Point Funding to make sure that everyone's eyes are on the solicitation so that we know what the compliance requirements are, okay? Incomplete capability package information. So once again, when they send us the requirements, we at Eagle Point, we make the template. And when we make the template, we produce the template in a way where it's easy for you to just dump your information in there, okay? Sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, I should say 99% of the time, a lot of people who seek out these funding opportunities, they see, oh, they want a capability package, and in it, they want to know about supply chain. I don't know what to tell them about the supply chain. Well, we at Eagle Point, we know what questions to prompt you with. So this way you just dump the information there, and then we take care of the narrative and we take care of putting it into sentence structure and making it actually sound nice. So we have the experience of being able to most easily collect that information from you and to guide you so that as opposed to standing in front of your computer screen and trying to figure out how to write this thing about supply chain, and it can take you hours, it can take you 20 minutes to just put the information to the prompts, and then we take care of the rest. Missing forms. This is just a process issue. Whenever we open an application in Eagle Point, the first thing we do is all the forms, right? Because we don't want any missing forms and we don't leave them until the end. So this is like your SF424, this is your different compliance forms, video and surveillance integration, all different forms that are gonna be required by AFworks. We know what those are because once again, we're reading the solicitation. And most importantly, on the online submission, we know what fields to attach them to. All that information, it's not a secret to anybody. You know, the information's there for you to use, but if it's missed and it's attached to the wrong field, it's as if you didn't do the form at all, and it can lead to a technical rejection. We discussed the end user customer MOUs, the wrong signatory. So this has to do both with the application and the MOU, which means that when you have the signatures from the MOUs, the two MOUs, all of the affiliated parties need to sign, and they need to sign in the right sections, okay? So that's another compliance check where we make sure that all of the different signatories who will be involved in your project, they signed in the right areas of the MOU. You'd be surprised sometimes it doesn't happen. And we find those and we make sure that they're checked. I don't know what happens to clients that don't work with us because the process for getting an MOU is so convoluted that I don't know if anyone else would even check once they actually have the document. The matching funds amounts do not align. So that's going to be a compliance check between what you're proposing in the proposal and then the different supporting documents that you received, making sure that everything matches. So it goes beyond just matching funds. It goes for project timelines. It goes for dates. If those things don't match up, your proposal is at risk for a technical rejection. Missing staff function coordination information on MOUs, that also has to do with MOU compliance. Most important thing that I want to pull your attention to is listed persons of contact are not aware of appointment. And this has to do with the project management portion that should go into every application process. So that means that when you list certain people on your proposal that will be involved in the project, but they don't know it, or they don't know the project in the way that they should. So if the Air Force reaches out to them and say, you know, you're involved in this AFworks proposal, we just want to do our compliance check, make sure that you're aware that you are bound to helping this research effort, and their answer to AFworks is, I had no idea, that's a problem. It can lead to technical rejection of the proposal. And that has to do a lot with project management compliance, making sure that not only did you secure the MOUs, but making sure that they know what you're going to use them for. In this case, we're using them for Tacfi, Stratfi, phase 3 commercialization funding opportunities. And we need the government assistance to help get there. If they don't know that, we're at risk for a technical rejection. It's as if we didn't bring them up to speed. So we at Eagle Point, we are your supreme project managers. And that means making sure that all of the documents that are required in any application process, that they are collected, signed correctly, submitted, and that everyone is on the same page. So that's the highlight of the service that we provide when it comes to providing these specific types of applications.
Amazing. And the final part, and again, I can't stress this enough, and we see this when we get companies to prepare in pitching in front of federal stakeholders at our showcase events, is pain points. The fundamental 3 questions I try to ask a company whenever we try to decide if we should be working together is kind of 3 whys. 1, why should a federal agency care about your tech? 2, why should the market care about your tech? And 3, why should, again, the agency care about what it's interesting for them? And meaning the fact that you have great technology, and even if you have dual use traction or private sector traction, what is the pain point that you're actually solving for the agency that is actually trying to do this? Even if you have 2 of these questions answered, if the agency does not understand what is the problem that being solved specifically for them, what does it cost them? Is it costing them in time? Is it costing them in money? Is it costing them in risking lives? If you're unable to translate the pain point into something that they care about to the person on the other side, this is something that it's going to make the investment and choosing you a harder job. The point is, as Jonathan can tell you later, is making you the easiest pick the easiest person to within everybody else who's submitting. Important dates. Now, AFworks has mentioned that they're going to release the Tacfi Stratfi program in anywhere between January to March. Now, this is something that on our side, we are constantly joining the webinars from different agencies. We constantly go to the AFworks webinars. We go to the Ask Me Anything events to get any hints and any clues on what's happening there. We go over and dozens of pages of the actual solicitations to figure out what they're saying kind of on the lines and between the lines. So this is something that we're constantly preparing for. The reason that we're doing this now, even before the release, is to be prepared for whatever might come. So our offer at the end of this webinar is join us even before the releases so we can get a lot of material ready, so we can start trying to find potential stakeholders, so we can already start preparing investors and clients. Jonathan, for the sake of not just me saying this, what do you guys do if you have extra time or spare time to prepare with a client? How does it benefit?
So I'll focus the scope to this case specifically. So when we have more time to prepare with a client, number one, it lets us get started on the MOU acquisition process way earlier, which is a game changer. Is number one. Number two, the way that our strategy at Eagle Point works is that we actually attach to your company as, you know, is a supplemental portion to your company. So as opposed our works methodology to Eagle Point, as opposed to just working with you for one-off applications, we work with you in an engagement period of 9 months. And what that allows us to do is it lets us actually understand your company, your technology, your processes, and articulate it in a much better way. So all of those things are required whenever we onboard a new client. And that means that if we work with you sooner rather than later, we can get started on those processes. You know, we do this also, by the way, where clients join us and specifically because there's an opportunity that they want to pursue 7 days after they sign with us. We still do that and we still submit it, but it's always a better idea for us to get as much of an understanding of you and your services, your technology, your company structure, where you're based, all of that information that goes into building an award-winning proposal. The sooner that we get started on that process, the much better and stronger the proposal will be. Now, when it comes to something like Tacfi Stratfi, where the release dates aren't super often, we don't want to mess it up the first time. We don't want to risk it, right? If it was an AFworks phase 1 that we know is coming out and, you know, easy process, if you want to give us 7 days notice, fine. But for something like this, the process that's required and the level of understanding of your company, plus the MOU outreach process, plus connecting you to the appropriate parties, that entire required scope of work is something that if we do it rather than later, it's unmatched to the actual service that we can, or to the quality of the service that we deliver. So I hope that answers that question.
Great. Again, you see that about 2/3 of this slide right now is to be determined or expect changes, and that's fine. That's why we're preparing. That's why we're getting ready. You'll see at the bottom left here the QR code that you can scan, or email me at yoav@eaglepointfunding, yoav@eaglepointfunding, and we'll be able to have a more in-depth discussion and see exactly when's the time for us to re-engage. Our goal in working with you is helping you secure Tacfi Stratfi financing, but also help you get additional non-dilutive funding opportunities within phase 1s or phase 2s. A lot of the people who are in this audience right now understand what is non-dilutive funding, so we didn't go a whole lot in depth to it. Our goal when we examine as a company is we want to help you fund anywhere between $750 to $3.4 million in the first 18 months and about $30 million in total funding through the entire duration of our relationship. And we have, if you take a look at our companies, we have companies that have launched to space, to the International Space Station, and we have companies that have won phase 3s. We have companies that have won direct to phase 2s or multiple phase 1s that we're now working on the next step projects. People who are going to be getting the slides afterwards, you'd be able to get the deck, press any one of those testimonials. The top row, by the way, are all of my interviews. So you'd be able to see even like the top row are all my clients, to be able to see what's the process is like, what have we been getting, and what's it's like working with us on these programs. More than that, basically, we want to help you get Tacfi and Stratfi. We'd love to help you both in supporting and getting the right investors and people who understand that they need to be able to move quick with not small amounts of funds. We want to be able to help you get all the documents ready in a presentable, fundable way. We want to help you outreach to the right federal stakeholders. We build our own events that stakeholders come in to see the right partnerships, and that includes investors, that includes the people from the federal stakeholders, including people from the Air Force who join from time to time, but also the corporate partnerships, meaning the companies that could bring you in and write letters of support, the companies that can write and say, we want to be working with this company if they get funded. We help similar programs. Yes, we do help in either setting up introductions or applying for funding within U.S. Army, Navy, NASA, Department of Energy, National Science Foundation. So Stephen, 100%. More than that, is doing the entire process of both non-dilutive funding and business development simultaneously. Now, if you reach out at YOAV at Eagle Point Funding or scan the QR code, we have various programs. We have programs that last 18 months where we guarantee a minimum return. We have programs that are very sprint-like, that are just for the Stratfi and Tacfi campaign. We have business development programs or grants. So reach out to us, get on a call, and me and my colleague Lena would be more than happy to see if this is a fit. And possibly, if Jonathan will have the bandwidth, maybe you'd be able to work with him directly. But we do have a phenomenal team of people, not just not just Jonathan, that are working with us. Before we're done, let's go over a little bit of the Q&A, because I see that we have a lot of them. Do we help with similar programs in the U.S. Army, Navy, etc.? Yes, any federal agency that would be a fit for your projects or the funding program, we're willing to help, either in non-dilutive funding or trying to help in setting up the introductions. So yes, questions answered. Will you get a copy of the slides? Yes, Lena, reach out to me or Lena at Eagle Point Funding, and we'd be happy to send the slides. eVTOL go to NASA, which has every step for full FAA certification and funding on real eVTOL made, but okay, great. What else? We build eVTOL aircraft. There's a need each time they choose a competitor that has more connections. So it seems like there is something missing there, that you're unable to kind of get all the ducks in a row. And that either means that you need to do more reach before the program, or you need to actually show pilot contracts, or maybe you need to actually work on pilot contracts with people from the private sector to be able to show interest on the other side, or investments. Francis, how much does this cost? It costs anywhere from $24,000 to $180,000. It will depend on the service that you're getting and for how long. Is there a minimum technology readiness level, TRL? Yes, for the strategic financing, tactical financing, Stratfi, Tacfi, Francis, you need to be able to get a phase 2 awarded at least in the last 90 days, which means the minimum TRL is at least above 3. You need to be able to have something that is able to be demonstrated with somebody from the Air Force. So yes, there is a minimum TRL.
Just to add in on that, the minimum TRL, the definition changes from agency to agency. All of them, one of them will have a prototyping stage, and some agencies mark that as TRL4, some of them mark it as TRL5. So our definition is the prototyping stage. You have to have a functioning prototype to apply for Tacfi Stratfi.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. There's a question, where is there a scenario where you work with a client, don't go through the SBIR route? Yes, we do. We can strictly help on the business development and investment, though we've seen that doing both has a synergistic effect. It helps in getting clients and pilot pilot programs and work with prime contractors. It helps with the investors on their kind of de-risking and due diligence part, and it helps with federal agencies and clients. So if a client says, I will not do SBIRs or STTRs or non-dilutive funding, sure, there's a way to work with them. It creates some constraints, but we know how to work around it. But it does have a multiplicative effect. So we highly, highly, highly recommend it. We don't have any phase 2 awards, so we have got to get a phase 2 first. Yes. In order for you to apply for Stratfi, Tacfi, yes, you need to have a phase 2 first. I think anybody else has any questions when it comes to our business development, I'll say this. We have a consultancy fee and a success fee, and it ranges anywhere where we only work on business development for 9 months, or you do one pitching event, or you join us for 18 months where we guarantee ROI on working with us. And obviously, the longer we work in more services has a higher price tag, but the more services that we do together, the more we're willing to guarantee either deliverables or effort or ROI. So feel free to go to the Calendly link that's right now in the chat, scan the QR code on the right, or email me at yoav@eaglepointfunding.com, and we'd be more than happy to help. So thank you, everyone. We'll be reaching out afterwards to the people here and the people registered with the slide deck if you're interested, and hope this was beneficial for you. So that's a wrap for now, unless people have any more questions for me or for Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining, and I hope I get a chance to speak with the people here.
No problem. I'll drop my email in here. If anybody has any specific questions like ITAR, I'm very happy to answer those questions. So I'll drop my email in here real quick. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, folks. Bye-bye.